All right. We are back. I'm back. Think we got everything sorted out. I did several tests with a couple different people, and so hopefully this is going to work for take 2. Let me know in the comments. Y'all know how we do. Let me know if you can hear me, if everything's cool with my audio. We're going to do a couple more tests real quick with y'all just to make sure. Check. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hello. Waiting on some viewers. Checking out the Yosh man with his drum pack. So we locked in. That we got some good clean audio. We don't want no mishaps this time around. Please let me know in the comments how I sound with my mic. Make sure my mic sounds good. And then I'm also going to hit playback on Pro Tools real quick to see what we got going on with Pro Tools. Sorry if I'm not looking at the camera right now. I'm trying to make sure we got settings. Okay. How does that sound over there? Let me get my chat window up so I can actually see what people are saying. I got 5 viewers. What's up, y'all? What's up? Let me know. How's the mic sound? Here's Pro. What we sounding like? We sounding much better? Much clearer? No audio bouncing around from random places? Mic check. Yes, sir. All right, cool. I sound good. Pro Tools sounds clear. We're not having bouncing around audio. Woo! All right, man. Let me tell you something. This whole OBS routing kind of foolishness things we having to do right now, this ain't it. So I'm gonna be testing out some other things to kind of figure out a better way, because this is a lot, even for me, and I do the most. So yeah, checking out Yosh's drums right now, live and in color, hopefully with crispy audio. So I got this track right here. We've got a bass drum mic on the hole. So this is a ported bass drum, and the mic is kind of half in, half out, so I don't have a kick in. And so with that, I want to get a little bit more of that clicky sound. I'm missing that from this particular kick drum. Thing that I'm thinking I want to add, let me kill this group right here because we just want to solo the kick drum. Yo, 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 yo. Am I back? Am I back? Am I back? Okay. Okay. I see what's going on. I see what's going on. We're going to do that right there. You hear me? I see meters. Meters are good on my end. There we go. All right, cool. All right. Sorry about that. So over here, you've got a detail. So this is basically saying how much of the signal that is picking up. So what's going to happen is when you start feeding, so you can see those lines there is showing you where it's actually hitting the signal, and this detail knob is allowing you to determine how deep into the signal. So a lot of times, like with a kick drum, you might have those double kicks where they hit the kick drum a little soft sometimes on a double kick. And so using the detail knob, you can bring it down to actually get a few of those extra hits in there that you might be missing. And then you can play around with the sensitivity and the re-triggering to fine tune it even more. And some people actually go super extreme with drum sampling to where they'll actually go through, they'll completely clean up their drum track. So they will go through this bass drum track, for example, and they'll cut it up and get rid of all the hits that aren't the bass drum, and they'll use that for the re-triggering. So that's actually a really dope way to do that. Trigger is, man, thank you, John. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Cool. There's Trigger right there up on the screen. So right there, those are the lines I was talking about, to where you can actually see the waveform coming through, and then you can determine the detail of how it digs into the waveform. Let me go somewhere that's got some snare playing with the kick. So you can see there where you can actually get really detailed in how fine-tuned is going into the signal. But if you want it to be even more anal, for lack of a better term, about it, you could really go in there and completely chop up your drums and then run the chopped up drums through Trigger, which is going to obviously give you a lot cleaner sound and sometimes take away some of the guesswork you're having to do with some of the settings with the sensitivity and all that kind of stuff. You just know for 100% fact that you've got nothing but the kick hits in there, and that's what you're working with. What's up, man? How you doing? So yeah, let's dig in here. Let's go to, I am going to bring up my bass drum track only. Y'all should still be hearing me. Yep, I see meters going, so we're good there. And we're going to go into our browser. And we want to go to Yosh Drum Warehouse. Trigger files. And I'm going to go to kicks. Let's see. Okay, I think I like the note tape a little bit better. You can see there, this is obviously where I loaded the kick in, but then if it has multiple, what they call articulations available to you, you can actually go here and click on it and you can see all the different types of articulations. So this gets really cool when you start layering a bunch of stuff in, to where you can actually take it and you can say, hey, I want to, hello, 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 hello. Mic is back. Man, this is weird. That should always be on. All right, let's do this. Mute, 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 mute. All right, just our kick drum. So you hear those flams that it's kind of doing on the kick drum, the blip, 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 blip. That's gonna be a part of this re-triggering here. So I'm gonna pull this up a little bit. And then we'll hit it with the no tape. With the tape. I actually like it with no tape. I feel like I'm getting a lot more of the click of the beater actually hitting the head. So we're gonna go with the no tape on that kick drum. Now, what you notice right now is, again, I only have one bass drum track. So bass drum, snare. So, and again, that microphone is halfway inside the hole on this particular kick drum head. So in order for me to get that attack, I'm using trigger to bring me that sound. Now, right now, the mix knob is set to 100%, which means it's 100% replacing the kick drum. That's not what I want to do. I want a little bit of the click, and I still want a little bit of the original deep sound that I had. So I'm going to pull the mix knob back to about, let's go to 50% or so, and see what we got there. So that's the original kick. About halfway. All the way replaced. So that's nice. I like that a lot. Now, that's one way of doing it, and the downside to doing it this particular way is that I don't have control over the low end and the high end at the same time. Like, it's all blended in together, which sometimes can work, sometimes doesn't work. In this case, I'm feeling like that's not gonna work. In normal mixing, I prefer to have a fader for kick in and kick out, and that way I can do my fader rides to control that. So what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna take our bass drum track and we're gonna duplicate that bad boy. Yes, I want all the same stuff on there. Yeah, that's fine. Cool, 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 cool. All right. So we're gonna make this be the out, and then this one will be in. And so I'm going to take trigger off of this one, because that's our out mic. I'm also going to take these plugins that I have on here off for now, just because that was stuff I was doing for the out mic by itself. So now let's hear what we got with these two blended together. So I'm rocking with that. So now we got that nice low end that we originally recorded, and then we have the nice top end smack coming from trigger. And if you notice, in trigger, I didn't do anything but I just added the sound. That's all I did. I just put the sound in there. I didn't mess with anything except for the re-trigger, just to make it stop doing the flam thing on the kick drum. And so that's what we ended up with. If I really want to fine tune this, Okay, so he's not doing any kicks that are too uneven, so everything sounds good right there as it is. So cool, we got our kick drum done. All right, moving on. Snare drum. I've got a top and a bottom snare here. So let's pull those open and see what we got. Okay. Let's go to a section that's got a little bit of a groove. Okay, that's cool. I got a little bit of snare bleed going on from the hi-hat, which we can deal with. So let's pull up trigger again, and we're gonna go just on. Actually, you know what? Let me add in a snare. So let's say, okay, I just want to add another snare sound completely to this. I'm in love with that snare sound. I just want to augment it a little bit. So we're not going to replace it. We're just going to add another sound. So let's do another duplicate track here. And let's just say I'm going to name this body. So we're going to put a lower snare in there and kind of see if we can give a little bit more depth to the sound, a little bit more oomph, hit you a little bit harder, like a shotgun. So let's go in here and hit trigger. And actually, let me reorder my plugins because I don't want that to hit tape saturation first. All right, snares, trigger files. What we got. I think I like that one. See, we got a dry with overhead. With that's nice. Room only. Okay, we got some options there. So let's try this. Let me do a dry here, but then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna bring it in again. And then I'm gonna also add in with the room. And we're just gonna pull that one down a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna take it out. Put it back in. Okay, let me just pull it down in the mix just a little bit there. All right, let's put that back with the kick drum and see what we're working with. And then I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna take out my original snare completely. So I'm gonna take out the top and this bottom right here and just listen to the replacement snare. So for me, by itself, it don't work because of the type of song we in. But, you know, let's go in here again and pull up some other sounds. Let's see what we got. That sounds close to the original snare. Let's see what we got over here, this piccolo. I like that. Something cool you can do with trigger. You can actually use this tune knob to tweak your sound. So if you want to crank that piccolo up even higher, you can do that right there. All right, and then let's pull back my snare in. So it gives it a nice little texture. I'm gonna pull that piccolo out. So very subtle. I mean, it's not, you're not overdoing it. We're just adding just a little bit of extra something there to give it a little bit more. I added some low, so I gave it a little bit more body in there. And then we put that piccolo in there, pitched it up a little bit just to give a little bit more high end. Now, what's cool about doing stuff like this too is that you're not having to necessarily go in and mess around with EQs and compressors and doing a bunch of processing. Even on the drums I recorded, if you notice, there's not a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's really nothing on these drum tracks. I've got a bass drum, just an EQ here, little tape saturation, and another EQ, and then same thing across the snares. I got a little bit of EQ there, pulling out some ring in the snare that was originally recorded. And actually, let's see, this is the body track. Let me take this off. Let's take that out. So yeah, really light on the processing, not going ham. Just got a limiter here on my output, and then little slate, little console emulation there, British in, a little bit of drive. So I'm not over sweetening these sounds at all. Like, you're literally just hearing pretty much bare bones what we got in the sample. All right, let's bring back some of this other stuff here. All right, let me go to an area where he's chopping a little bit and kind of hear how that snare is being affected. Okay, toms. I'm feeling like we need to do something with these toms. His hits ain't. All right, cool. So we missing the tom hit in there, and just, you know, we're it's not solid. So let's trigger this bad boy up. Let's see here. Yosh's drums. Trigger files, toms, maple gum. Okay, so this kit that was recorded, there's actually 5 toms on the kit, and I've got 2 toms from Yosh on this maple gum kit, and then let's go to this other kit, only 2 toms. Okay, let me go to the one shots real quick just to make sure that's true. Okay, wait a minute. So trigger files, we only got 2 toms, but if I go to the one shots, I'm seeing tom 1, tom 2, tom 3. Okay, I can work with that. Again, because trigger allows me to tune them up, I can maybe take the 10-inch and tune it up to be the 8, and so we can play around with that a little bit. Okay. Yep. Okay, so after hearing that, he's barely hitting that 8-inch. So I'm gonna bypass that for now. I'm just gonna mute that bad boy and just deal with the 10, 12, 14, 16. And again, we can look here. He's not really even hitting the 16 much throughout this entire record. So we're not even gonna worry about that. So this time 1, time 2, time 3 might actually work out pretty well for us. Ooh, that second time got a little flub going on in there. Let's come in here, one shot, toms. We was using maple gum, yep. Drop you in there. And I'm gonna pull these mix knobs back. I don't want to completely replace these. I just want to give a little bit of love. Okay, tom 4. Let's bring you. Grab something, Yosh. Okay, we pull those triggers out. And then we're going to put them back in. Y'all hear that floor tom activating? So that's coming from this trigger right here. So something like that, I'm not gonna mess around with the trigger settings. You could sit here all day long and mess around with trigger settings trying to fix something like that. But for me, I know that that's a non-needed hit. Just get rid of it. Don't need it. Same thing's happening on tom 2. So we're just gonna kill that bad boy. And matter of fact, I'll just do it on all of those. Make it easy. And again, without the triggers. Trigger back in. Okay, let's go. Okay, so those are some pretty solid hits right there. And in more detail, if I was actually mixing this record for real, I would probably go and copy some of these hits from here and put them down in that other section just because they're much more solid. And so for trigger, it's going to trigger a lot better having those solid hits. So let's use this section really quickly as a nice little example for trigger. I think it'll be a little bit better. So right there, that's no trigger. Put a trigger back in. So to me, that's just a lot more solid. And again, if you look at my trigger settings here, let me make sure I got trigger on the screen. Yep, all right. I'm not replacing it completely. I just have the mix knob at 66%. So it's bringing enough of the sample in to augment the original toms that I have there, and also helping clean up some of those hits that aren't necessarily defined on the drum. Is taking over and bringing some of that stuff out. And so it's very subtle. I'm not overdoing it. I like this. And of course, I'm sure y'all have. I'm a drummer. So first of all, back in the day, if somebody said they was replacing my drums, I would be, up in the air and kind of furious about that. And especially when I get the record back and I hear it and they've completely redone everything I did with tuning and everything. So what I'm doing here is not replacing the drums. I'm just giving them a little bit of help. And then I don't have the full record in here, but this record is very dense. There's multiple electric guitars, there's keys, there's synths, there's vocals. So it's a very dense record. So you can EQ and compress yourself to death, and you still have drums that you feel like, man, they're not punching through the mix. They're not cutting through. And by using samples like this, it's going to allow you to get that extra oomph on your drums and be able to push them up in the mix without over compressing, without EQing to death and just doing a bunch of unnecessary stuff. Ooh! Did y'all hear the floor tom resonance? Let me go back. Yo, that sample. Wait a minute. Let me take that floor tom sample off real quick and let's hear it without it. But then when I put trigger back in, I don't know if y'all can hear that low end the way I'm hearing it, but that extended low end on that sample is very, very, very nice. And just so I'm not tricking myself, let's pull this out and just make sure, the original doesn't have it. Okay, so for this particular record, I can't do that because this cut was something they added in after tracking. They didn't track it that way. They decided, hey, let's put a break right here. So if you hear, there's a snare hit in the original tom. All right, let's bring our trigger back. Yeah, that extra low end resonance on that floor tom, I'm loving that. That's jeez. So if you're listening, you hear toms clicking in and out there. So again, that's all to do with these trigger sensitivity and detail settings. And you could play around with this stuff all day long. You ain't got to do that. Make it easy on yourself. Sometimes the best thing to do is just go in here and just mute this stuff, man. Ain't no toms playing during this section. Just kill all that. And he ain't playing no toms right there. Just bye-bye. Okay. Another tom section right there that we can take for a test drive. No trigger. You know, they sound okay, but let me put the triggers back in. Hey man, this it. I'm going to call it right now. This it. Best drums of your life. That what John say? Yeah, go ahead and download these Yosh drums. Matter of fact, you need to get it between today and tomorrow because it's on sale for $79.99. After Friday, it's going up to, I believe, $99.99. John will say something in the comments, but yeah, get them while they on sale. Y'all just heard that. Original toms. Trigger toms. Bruh, that's it. And I'm gonna tell you something else too. Like, without trigger, I would sit here and go back to the beginning where we had those solid drum hits, and I would pull those and bring them over and try to use those as samples to clean it up. I'd go mess around with my gates and play around with EQs and do all this stuff. But I'm to be completely honest with you, that kind of stuff takes time, and the quicker you are, the more money you make. Sometimes it ain't about the bottom dollar. It's about, okay, in this hour, how much money am I making? So if I can use something like this to speed up my process, I'm going to use it. I spent many years being one of those guys that wasn't trying to use technology. You know, I ain't using auto-tune. I ain't, we not drum replacing. We ain't doing none of that. And hey, man, that's dead and gone, man. You start looking at some of these top mixing engineers and you see in the course of a year that they've mixed hundreds of records. That'll let you know something. You might be taking a little bit too much time with the little minute details that honestly ain't nobody hearing but you. So let's just keep it real. These drums are smacking, man. I'm in there. Let's just kind of play through this a little bit more. Yeah, it just adds just a nice texture to it, man. I'm really loving that. Okay, let me pull out all the triggers. So we're gonna go to that kick drum, bye-bye kick in, bye-bye snare body. And then we're gonna take the toms, pull them out. Just the drums as recorded. It's cool. It's cool. y'all are seeing my first reactions, and I honestly feel like I did not record these as well as I thought I did. It's just something about them, and then when I put the triggers in, that's just better. I can't call it any other way. So, again, original drums recorded, and then I'm going to play it again with the triggers back in. Alright, let's bring the triggers back in. Bass drum, snare body, toms. That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, let me go to this second record I pulled up. In this particular record, I pulled this up for two reasons. For one, it's got a side stick in it, and I know in another video that somebody did, somebody was asking about side stick and if the pack has side sticks. So we're about to find out, does the pack have side sticks in there? And then two, these drums were tracked back in 2010, 11 maybe. Like, these are old drums. If you've been following me for a while, my room has taken an evolution in acoustical treatment through the years. So this is pre what I have right now. This is pre Pearl Masters and Session Studio Classics. This is a PDP CX kit, the blue sparkle. The mics are the digital reference from Guitar Center drum mic. So these drums nowhere near as good of a recording as the other drums that we just listened to. So let's see what we got here. Okay, not sure if you can hear that or not, but one of the things that I'm hearing with these drums, and this is why I'm a big advocate of having virgin bass drums, is because every time I hit the kick in this particular record, I hear the toms resonating. And when it comes to mixing, that's just something else that you're going to have to deal with. Be it high pass filter, be it gates, be it editing. It's something you got to deal with. If you can take care of stuff like that in the beginning while you're recording, so much better for you. So let's go ahead and go in here on this snare track, and let's pull us up trigger. And I need a side stick for this particular section of the song. Yosh Drum Warehouse, trigger files, snares. Okay, I'm not seeing side sticks. Oh, wait a minute. There's one. So not every snare has it in there. So the walnut snare doesn't have it. Wallet doesn't have it. There's one right there. One there. None here. There's one there. None there. There's one there. Okay. That one has a lot more body to it for me, so I'm gonna grab this one. And let's bring it with the overheads. And I'm gonna pull that track up a little bit. And you know what? Let me check something. Because this record was mixed a while back, I probably have automation on here. Yep. Kill all that. All right. Bruh, did you just hear the room just take over? Let me go back to this dry. That's no reverb. That's just their sample with the room. So let's get a little creative here. Let's use that. Let's bring in another one that's just the dry. All right, let's take this trigger out. Y'all already know. I don't even need to play it again. That sounded terrible. Trigger. Woo! That's nice, man. That's real nice. And let's also, for good measure, let's go in here, see if this is gonna keep. Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any additional bleed coming from anywhere on that. Now we know these toms are gonna give us some problems. And actually, let me show you that. So all of this extra stuff right here, that's not tom hits. That's what we're hearing. So all that extra drums you're hearing right there, that's coming from these tom mics. And again, in a mix, that's stuff that is going to get in your way. That's the kind of stuff that builds up your mixing. If you ever look at your spectral meters and you see this build up and you're trying to figure out where it's coming from, if you don't go through and gate toms or edit toms, that's the kind of stuff right there that's giving you your buildup. So we're just gonna go in here and really quickly kill this. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Now, I'm be honest. I'm not as mad with these toms as the other record, and I'm not even gonna go into playing. I played these drums. Somebody else played the previous record. So there's one thing about just tracking drums. You gotta hit the drums in the right spot, or else they're not gonna come through properly. So there's that. But because we're trying out Trigger and the Yosh drum samples, let's replace them, shall we? So let's go over here. Tom 1, Trigger, and nope, not that. All right. And we're just gonna pull up any old. Let me take off this, what we got up here? There's a compressor. Why? Bruh, another thing about pulling up some old records, you see stuff you did and you just be like, yo, why did I do that? Like, I'm sitting here listening to this, I'm like, why in the world did I compress that? It needs no compression. Foolishness. All right. Anyways. Toms, Yosh. Last time we used the maple gum because that kit had 3 toms, but just let's see, WFL floor tom 1. Okay, let's see. That actually sounds really close. Now, I'm going to show you something else, too. If you listen, you hear bleed. That's coming from the snare track. All right, so we're going to clean that up a little bit here. We did Tom 1. Let's go ahead and do Tom 2. Browser, Yosh Drum Warehouse. Toms, WFL 2. And then I'm going to just go ahead and do 3 since we're right here. Floor tom. Okay, so we got to do some settings. Woo. Okay. Let's So the trigger for the floor tom is picking up a bunch of stuff. Look at that. So I'm going to take the re-trigger up, and I'm also take the sensitivity. Jeez. Okay, there we go. All right, let's bring everything back. Okay. Much better. Much better. No triggers. Ugh. Trigger. Okay, those drums, those toms are super, super fat. So let's pull back the mix a little bit. The floor tom is lovely. That floor tom, my goodness. Okay, let's take the triggers off right there. And bring the triggers back in. Y'all can hear my nasty edit that I did back in the day. Okay, that's nice. Moving down to where we actually start hitting the snare. Now, this is about to be pretty funny. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen, but let's just play it and see. Okay, so this section obviously switching to the snare, and so we use trigger for a side stick there. Now, you can actually go in here and set things like velocity that controls how hard a hit is for it to use a certain trigger. So I've never actually done that. I usually will just take side sticks and put them on their own track so I don't have to deal with anything like that. But since we live, let's do it, right? Let's play around. Snare track, view my curves, and I want this. Okay, we're getting some extra floor tom stuff going on, so I'm going to mute that for a second. Alright, so I'm going to bring in a snare sample. I'm going to go to his legacy samples here. Let's see what we got. Come here, Jimmy. Okay, so for me, that's not really doing much. And again, I've never really played. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Curve length. Nope, that's not it. So yeah, it's not really doing much for me as far as getting rid of the side stick. Let me go to the front. Yeah, it's not doing anything. I'm gonna have to play around with that a little bit more to kind of really get a grasp of how this functions. Okay, so I got two options on a record like this, dealing with trigger. I can automate. I should be able to automate these mutes in here. Let me see here. What's in my automation? Volume, pan, tune, mute. So yeah, I can automate these samples for different sections of the song, or I could split out my side sticks on one track and then put my regular snare hits on another track and do it that way. Either way is fine. Not really worried about that. So just for the sake of sound quality here, let's just go over here and mute the side sticks for this section and see what it sounds like with just this snare. Let's see what other articulations we have. Okay, Jimmy Snare has no other articulations, which will make sense because the legacy sounds are sounds from Yosh's catalog that he's been using for decades. So these wouldn't have been multi-sampled and layered and all that kind of stuff specifically for triggers. These are just basically one-shot samples. So what I'm gonna do is, I feel like the snare is ringing out a little bit. So I'm gonna go into the curve section and I'm actually going to pull back the sustain on this and see if we can make that a little short. Okay, that's much tighter. Let me pull it back up just so we can get a point of reference. And then me pulling that sustain and resonance all the way down almost. And original snare. Okay, so we're hearing a bunch of bleed and just a bunch of stuff going on there. Jimmy snare. I actually like that blend, getting a little bit of that bleed in there, but the nice fat punch of just the sample blended in with the original, I think is a very, very, very nice touch there. So let's just bring all of our mics back in and see what we sounding like. And again, you know, these are just hits that you're just going to have to take out, man. I mean, you could spend all day trying to mess around with settings, but it just makes more sense to just cut it out. Okay, so again, with this bass drum, we just have a bass drum out. I'm pretty sure that's how I would have tracked it back then. That it's not giving me the smack. We gotta have the smack, man. Without the smack, it's just low. So let's go ahead and duplicate this bass drum track. And let's do a kick in. BDN. What? Where are you at? Oh, I know where it's at. Trigger. And let's go into Yosh. Actually, let me go to the trigger files. Kicks. So I like that, but again, I want to get a little bit more control. So I'm going to pull a second one in. And then this one I'll do with the room, and I'm going to pull that one down slightly. And then this one here, probably no tape. Same section, no triggers. That is just a nasty mess of bleed and nonsense. It's just terrible. Terrible drum recording. My drum room was poorly treated back then. The mics weren't that great. They worked back then, but it's not that solid. So if I was mixing this record today, we'd be on these triggers, no doubt. Put the triggers back in, and here's what we got. Man, I don't know what else to say, man. These drums sound great. Using them with trigger is awesome. It's really a nice enhancement. If you producing, if you mixing, you gotta get these, and not just trigger. You gotta get trigger, and you gotta get the Yosh drum pack. That's actually the important part. The Yosh drums. I've messed around with trigger for a long time, and up until now, it never had samples that were for R&B and gospel and even funk. Like, you would have to go into a lot of the built-in drums and tweak them a little bit more. Same way I was tweaking that one snare, changing the resonance and all that kind of stuff. You have to do the same thing with all of those. Here, I'm just throwing kicks in. I'm just throwing snares on, throwing the toms on, and they just work. They're already tuned right. It feels good. I feel like just right off the bat, just kind of just breaking down the kits. These toms from the what's this? The WFL kit. I'm gonna have to go back to the site and look at the details on that. I don't know if they have those details for us, but there's a video where they walk through all the sounds. So I'll probably watch that to see the drums they use. But the WFL kit to my ears sounds like it's tuned deeper. So probably for more of your worship type music. That's got a bigger sound, some rock stuff. I can see benefiting from that. But the Maple Gum kit, that sound like gospel. Like this is the one. And those flams, that's another thing that's super dope. I was hoping that they did that, and they did. Actual flams. Like sometimes you have to do some manipulation with other drum packs to make flams happen, and they've already sampled it in. So you could really break this down. Again, with trigger, there's a lot of settings that you can play around with and tweak and do automation and stuff. But if you want to save yourself some time, it's not taking up any CPU power. I'm running OBS and doing everything we're doing right now, and y'all can see my CPU is barely doing anything. So I think for certain things it makes sense with Trigger to just break this stuff down, man. Take your side sticks, put them on their own dedicated track, keep your snare hits on their own track. If you got a bass drum, just a single bass drum mic, and you want to add a second one, duplicate your bass drum and and give it that extra top end or the low end, whichever one you need. And then for things like the flams, you might end up needing to put those on a different track. But I'm going to play around with Trigger a lot more because I know that you're supposed to be able to go in here with these curves and really define what velocity and all kind of things that affect when the trigger actually activates. So I'm going to spend some time messing around with that just to see if I can get a hold on how to use it. And then once I figure it out, if I figure it out, I'll come back and let y'all know with a tutorial or something like that on how to get those things programmed in. But the Yosh drums, man, it's solid, man. It again, I'm hearing this in real time right now, drums that I tracked, and I can honestly say that I got to revisit some of my tracking. Like it's not even close. These drum sounds are really, really, really nice, and they're definitely going to enhance your mixes, enhance your records. Even if you're just programming drums, being able to use these drums as your program drum sounds is pretty awesome. So I'm gonna get off of here. I've been on here way longer than I thought I was gonna be. I got coffee here that's gotten cold. I gotta get me one of those ember mugs that keeps your coffee warm. But yeah, man, this your man Dell Mixed It. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.